Okay, so we're in Parshas Vayechi, and we are going to look at Perek Nun, the 50th chapter, verse 13. Just from 3 words, we're going to have a whole world open up to us. And what happens is Yaakov Avinu passes away, and his children take him from Egypt to Israel, and they bury him in Eretz Yisrael, in Ma'aras HaMachpelah, where the other, where our other forefathers and mothers were buried, and Adam and Chava were buried there as well. And what does it say? Vayisu oisei vanav. And his sons carried him to the land of Canaan, and they buried him in the cave of the Machpelah field. Okay, Rashi. Vayisu oisei vanav, and his sons carried him. V'loi bnei vanav, but not his grandsons. Shakach tzivam, for thus did Jacob command his sons. Al yisu mitasi, do not allow to carry my bed or my coffin. Loi ish mitzri, neither an Egyptian man. V'loi echad mibneichem, nor any of your sons. Shehem mibneis Canaan, for they are from the daughters of Canaan. Their mothers are Canaanite women. Ela atem, only you should carry it. V'kava lahem makim, and he assigned them places. Shloisha lamizrach, 3 to the east. V'chein la'arba ruchos, and likewise for all 4 directions. Uchesidran lemasa machane shel dgalim, according to their arrangement for traveling and encamping in the wilderness. Nikvu kan, they were assigned their places here. Levi la yisa, Levi shall not carry the coffin. Shehu asid laseis esa arein, for he is destined to carry the holy ark. V'yosef la yisa, and Yosef shall not carry it. Shehu melech, for he is a king. Menashe v'Ephraim yiyu tachteya, Menashe and Ephraim shall take their places. Okay, that's Rashi. Okay, so every one of the 12 tribes was given or was assigned a certain direction, north, south, east, west, to carry the coffin, and that later on became the place, their designated spot when they were camping in the desert where their shevet rested. And Yaakov, who gives us instruction, says that the shevet of Levi himself, Levi, and Yosef, his 2 sons, Levi and Yosef, should not carry the coffin. And in their stead should be Ephraim and Menashe. Okay, so we have a couple of questions on this. Levi should not carry the coffin. Why? Because he's destined to carry the Aron. He's so holy, he's destined to carry the Aron, the holy ark, and therefore he should not carry the coffin. Well, we have a few questions. Number 1, when is the Aron going to be carried? When is this ark with the Torah or the Luchos, when is it going to be carried? Later on in the future. How does it affect? Why should Levi not carry the Aron now? Because in 4 generations from now, his descendants are going to carry it. So first of all, it's in a long time. Number 2, it's not even him. He himself is not going to carry it. Only his children will carry it. And third of all, to carry the coffin is a big mitzvah. As a matter of fact, if a person has an opportunity to carry a coffin, that comes first, even before saying Shema. And whose coffin is it? It's his father's coffin. So why should we prevent him? Why should he be prevented from carrying his own father's coffin, which is a mitzvah? Now let's talk about Yosef for a second. Yosef, why should he not carry it? Because he's a king.
Like a dishonor? Is that what it is?
Okay, so the huge question that we have is, from all the brothers, who was the one that Yaakov depended on to actually get him out, to actually get it that he should be buried outside of Egypt. As a matter of fact, Yaakov made him take an oath, made him swear that he was going to do so. And he said, "You shall transport me out of Egypt." So if you got to take that, you have to take that verse literally. Yaakov specifically said, "You shall transport me out of Egypt," to his son, the king, who had the power to do so. And then yet he also gave the instruction that Yosef should not carry the coffin. So which one is it? And why would Yaakov say that he should not carry the coffin when he made him swear to get him out, and it's a mitzvah and it's his father? Okay, he's a great person, he's a great king, but it's his father.
And then he's making such a separation that the grandchildren shouldn't be part of it because they're like so interested.
The children of Canaan.
I know, but it wasn't even
And
a thing.
Is also not. No, Menashe and Ephraim were from Asnas. It was Dinah's daughter. Right.
Why would they separate? Like you can't.
No, so also it's a coffin. I mean, you don't need 100 people. You know, it's like
That he did have a lot of children. It wasn't like he had one child. So.
yes. So
They found that's why they didn't.
So just like we learned in last teaching, welcome. There's something. It's not just carrying a coffin. There's a lot of spirituality behind it. There's meaning behind this. And that's why these specific people have to do it, and these specific people cannot do it. It's not just, there's something spiritual going on here. It's not just, you have to look deeper. It's not just a story. It's not just a story of what happened. There's so much depth and meaning. And this ties us back to the class that we had, the Taina class on Thursday, that when we learn Torah, it's like hugging a king. And yes, the king is wearing garments. It seems like a regular story. Everyone can understand this concept of father passing away and children, bringing him to his resting place. But there's so much more layers beyond the surface, and the story is just like is just like clothing. It's just garments in order for us to understand something much deeper truth and a personal lesson for our life. Okay. So Rashi answers this question because both of them, both Levi and Yosef, both had a mitzvah to fulfill. Levi has a mitzvah to partake in the levaya and to bring his father to his final resting place, to hold on to the coffin. That would be a mitzvah for him. And Yosef even more, because his father specifically made him swear that he would take him out of Egypt. So how could it be that they had this mitzvah, such amazing opportunities to kibbud of and to fulfill, to fulfill this command, the command, and yet Yaakov himself said that they should not carry the coffin. And so the question is how could they be instructed not to carry the coffin when there's a mitzvah involved? So Rashi answers the question. Rashi says, Menashe v'Ephraim yiyu tachtehem. Menashe and Ephraim shall take their place. Menashe and Ephraim are instead of them. Menashe and Ephraim serve as shluchim. And shluchai shel adam k'moisei. An emissary is like the person himself. So yes, they had a mitzvah. They had a commandment, an obligation to bury their father, but they didn't lose out because they had shluchim, they had an emissary to do it on their behalf. So it's considered that they did it. And who are the shluchim that are taking that are taking their responsibility? That those are Menashe and Ephraim. So now we have another question. For a son to take upon himself the responsibility of his father, that we can understand. Yosef has a responsibility to take his father out of Egypt. Now, for some reason, he can't do it because he's a king. We'll see what that means. So he can't do it, so let his sons do it for him. That makes sense. Ephraim and Manasseh are Yosef's sons. But what is the connection between Ephraim and Manasseh and Levi? Like what? How could they represent Levi?
We just learned yesterday.
Yes.
We learned yesterday that Yaakov said Menashe and Ephraim are his actual sons. So therefore, they can take the place of the other sons.
But other children did carry. 10 times Shloshim did carry. From the 2 instructions nothing. Why? That's the question we're discussing there. And what the Rashi says is for later because he's going to carry the armor, but that's generation later. So why now? And for Yosef, he gave him a direct command to make sure he get buried in his soul. So why does he tell him not to? So that's the question.
Yeah. Okay. So there's gotta be a direct connection to Levi. Okay, so just to make things simple, just to make things a little bit to simplify things, Menashe is taking the responsibility for Yosef, and he's carrying instead of Yosef, and Ephraim is the one that is carrying instead of Levi. So there's got to be a connection between Ephraim and Levi because Ephraim is the one that is taking his place. Okay, so what is the connection?
May I ask based on what does it say? Menashe under Yosef and Ephraim and Levi.
Okay, so we're gonna see.
Answer the question.
Okay, so in Rashi, it doesn't say who's taking for who. But it's going to become very, very clear once you understand everyone's roles. It's going to be very clear why Ephraim is taking over for Levi. Okay. So in order to understand the connection between Ephraim and Levi, we have another question. We know that towards the end, or at the end of the Egyptian exile, Moshe Rabbeinu, who is Moshe Rabbeinu? He is the son of Kahas, who is the son of Levi. And we know that in the future, Levi's children were the ones that transported the Mishkan. They carried the Mishkan. Now, there were different parts of the Mishkan that had to be carried. And the one that actually kept the descendants of specifically Kahas, which is the branch where Moshe's family comes from, they were the ones that carried the Aron and the Kalim. Specifically Moshe, who's going to redeem the Jews, and he comes from he's the son of Kahas, who's the son of Levi, Amram, Kahas, Levi. What does he do? He is the one that goes and gets Yosef's bones out of the Nile River, and he is carrying Yosef's coffin. So if you say, listen, the tribe of Levi, they're so to and then in the future, in 4 generations from now, they're going to be carrying the ark and the Aron, which has the luchos in it. They're so holy, and therefore Levi can't even carry his father's coffin to Israel yet. Moshe Rabbeinu is carrying Yosef's coffin. So what's the difference between Yaakov's coffin and Yosef's coffin? That Yaakov's coffin, no, God forbid that Levi should touch it. He needs a shliach. And yet when it comes to Yosef's bones, to Yosef's coffin, then Moshe is the one that does it. Basically, the story is that Yaakov was lucky that he was able to be buried outside of Israel, but Yosef didn't have that privilege, at least in quotes. And he was, after he passed away, the Egyptians would not allow anyone to take him out of Egypt. They wanted him in Egypt. So they put his casket his coffin in the Nile River. And then when it was almost time for the Jews to leave, Moshe Rabbeinu took a piece of parchment and he wrote on it Alei Shor, which means get up, ox. Yosef is compared to an ox, and then the coffin came up, and that's how they were able to, and they took it out of Egypt. And Yosef had made this request. He said, when the time is going to come for God to redeem the Jewish people, please take my bones out. And that's what happened. So what is the difference between Yaakov's coffin and Yosef's coffin? So the Jewish people were living in Egypt. They had descended from Israel. But at that point, when Yaakov was still alive, the exile did not start yet. There were different phases and stages of the exile, and nothing started until the first stage of the slavery and the real hardship only began once Yaakov passed away. And by them taking Yaakov's coffin out of Israel, that was the beginning of, that was the catalyst for, that propelled, that started the exile. And Levi and Yosef, for two different reasons, both that represent a level that is above exile. Exile was antithesis to their essence, to their being, to what they stood for, and therefore they could not partake in a process that's going to get Galus started. On the other hand, Yosef's coffin, what did that represent? Going out, redemption. So that was very, very, very much in line with Levi and Yosef. And therefore, who is the best person to get Yosef's bones out? The Redeemer himself, Moshe Rabbeinu, who's coming from Shevet Levi, because that was in line with his essence, with what he stood for, etc. And therefore, Moshe Rabbeinu was the one to get Yosef's bones out. So it's not a contradiction. A coffin that represents the beginning of Galus, that Yosef and Levi could not partake in. But a coffin that represents the beginning of the redemption, that's another story.
Did they take him out right when he passed away?
Yosef? I'm sorry, Yaakov? Yeah?
Right. And then the Shvatim came back.
Yes.
It wasn't like the scientists were like not come back, or they knew they were comfortable and they were coming back.
That's a good question.
Yeah,
They
no,
should have
so-
just stayed out.
No, I'm saying, I'm thinking of the war, like I was just interesting. I was just in Switzerland, and
Didn't
it's just
start
so
with there was
fascinating.
comfortable there.
people came there to like safe haven, right? So why did more people come to Switzerland? Like, they didn't take it seriously. They didn't,
People didn't believe.
right, because they were comfortable.
At some point,
That's interesting.
they didn't let that.
Right, at some point,
You see, I think Pari was afraid that the Pari was afraid that they would leave, and therefore, yeah, and he did try to hold them back. And Yosef said, "Look, I swore to my father that I would do so. And if you make me break my promise to my father, then I'm going to break the promise that I made to you, and I'm going to let everyone know that you don't know all the languages, because the king in those times, they had to know all the languages. There were 70 languages, but there was really 71 languages, which was the Hebrew language. So it said that there were 70 steps to get to Parai. And Yosef communicated with Parai in each of the 70 languages. And then when he finally came to the top step, Yosef started speaking in Hebrew, and Parai didn't know what he was talking about. And Parai said, "Just please, swear to me that you're not going to tell anyone that I don't know this last language." And so he said, "Listen, you want me to break my promise? I'm going to break that promise too." So Parai said, "Okay, fine." But he was shaking. He was shaking in his boots. He didn't want the Jewish people to leave. I don't know if everyone went out if everyone left Egypt to bury him, or if it was just his sons, or if it was just the funeral party. I don't know if it was all the 70 people. I don't know.
There were by that point way more than 70, so
That's also true. Yeah, I don't know if all the babies.
it doesn't say everyone.
It does. Well, what does it say? Vayashav Yosef Mitzraymahu ve'echa v'chol ha'olim itay likbaras aviv.
There was a whole escort, the mixing.
Yeah.
So
So
everybody came back.
Yosef and his brothers and all who had gone up with him to bury his father after he buried, they all came back.
That we know of.
Yeah.
Some defective,
No, because it's just not written.
I'm saying some defective. You can make it up.
Okay.
That's how they put it in. That's how it is.
So now we're going to take the coin the other way around. We're going to so if this is the case, that Yosef and Levi are on such a high level and they're above the exile, which we're going to discuss why, and therefore they couldn't carry their father's coffin. In that case, then why do they need shluchim? Why do they need emissaries to do it for them? Okay, we said the mitzvah part, but still, if they're on such a level that they represent redemption and they couldn't be partaken in something that was the opposite of redemption, that was the galus, why did they need shluchim?
You're saying if they're exempt, they're exempt. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, and why are shluchim necessary? And what could Ephraim and Menashe accomplish that it had to specifically be Ephraim and Menashe and not them?
Why? I consider it like a shlochim. That's what the Yaakov said. But why do they need someone to represent them if they are exempt? That's the question.
But
That's fine.
so then the other side is that they're really considered on the shvatim, and on the shvatim sent them. So it's a double situation.
Not for them. But that's for their sake, not as representing instead of Yosef and Levi.
Right. Why
That
should
should
they
make them
be
like equal.
Question is, why do they need a shliach?
Yeah.
Why do they need a shliach? And once we understand
Why
who the
specifically?
shluchim are, why specifically these shluchim, what do they bring to the table? Okay, a couple more questions. Okay, let's first discuss Levi and Yosef, what it means that they were above the exile. So Yosef, he was a king, and there was never a point that he himself was subjugated to. I'm saying once he became king, that he was, that you could any form of slavery, any form of subjugation to the Egyptians. He was a king. He was above them. He was above the slavery. He was above the Egyptians, and all that he ruled them. He was in charge of them.
That was also not in the Shibud.
So exactly. Okay. So now let's have to speak about Levi. Okay. So Yosef himself, we understand that he was above the slavery because he was the ruler over the entire Egypt. Ephraim and Menashe is another story. They were his children, so they were eventually, subjected to the slavery. But he himself, he was above it.
You couldn't protect his children.
It started only after he died.
Yeah. So it had. Yeah. So there were three stages. First, Yaakov died. At that point, first Yaakov died. At that point, let's write it down. At that point, the Egyptians started to cajole the Jews to start doing hard labor. Maybe they even got paid for it at that point. Remember, Yaakov's children, they were all shepherds. So even to get them into the industry, to even get them, to rope them in. Oh, Parai, he wants cities, come and work. You'll get a good salary. So that started after Yaakov passed away. Then came Yosef's passing. When Yosef passed away, then it says that the Egyptian burden began. And then after all the brothers passed away, and who was the last one was Levi. And that's what the Torah says how old Levi was when he passed away, so he could figure out how many years was the actual hard work. After Levi passed away, that's when the enforced enslavement began. Okay. So, so as you said, okay, so we know that Yosef is above, above the slavery. He's the king. He ruled them. They didn't rule him. But then we find the Shevet Levi. Shevet Levi, they were exempt from the physical slavery. And the question is, how did that happen? How are they exempt from the
They
slavery?
did not follow when they thought that they're going, they got paid, when they sweet talked them to come, they stayed and learned. They did not follow that. So when they became in slavery, of course, they were not part of the.
Right. So Levi was never part of the slavery. They never came to work. They never signed up to volunteer. They were busy. We learned this I feel like we learned this in B'Yaz last year, that they accepted upon themselves the shibud of learning Torah. To learn Torah is also hard work. And we said, I think it was last year, we said, Chaymer and Levanim, Chaymer is Kal v'Chaymer. So learning Torah, you could schwitz over learning Torah, just like you could schwitz over back-breaking labor. So they kind of switched. They kind of took upon themselves a different kind of hard labor, which is labor of learning Torah, versus back-breaking labor, which I believe that we learned last year that, when Hashem sees that we're working hard to learn Torah, then he'll take away other burdens from us. Yes. Okay. So how is it that they were exempt from slavery? And if they were exempt from slavery, how is it that they gain what the other Jewish people gained when they left Egypt? When the Jews left Egypt, they came out with Rechush Gadol. They came out with tremendous wealth. We don't find that Levi was exempt from that. Levi also came out with tremendous wealth. So we know that the Galus wasn't just to punish the Jewish people or to make them suffer. There was obviously it was a refinement process. So if the Shevet Levi didn't go through the refinement process, then how did they come out with the gain, with the benefit? And we find that they did. Torah refined them. Perfect. Okay, so let's talk about the answers. Okay. The common denominator between Yosef and Levi was, yes, that they did transcend the exile. However, their job was to inspire their brothers and to fan the flames of faith. That was their responsibility. So it was like a partnership. We have many parts of our body. Our eyes help our whole body see, and our feet help our whole body go wherever it has to go. So every part of the body has to do something, and then there's a partnership. We all do for each other. We do for, the eye will do for the foot, and the foot will do for the eye. We work together. And the same thing happened with the Jews in Egypt. Yes, unfortunately, there had to be the hard back-breaking labor, because it was like putting the Jews through a refinement process. But there's a risk. If Hashem takes the Yidden and puts them through this treacherous slavery, there's a risk that maybe the Jews will give up. And they'll say, well,
they gave up.
Today, most of the people.
Yes.
And they fell to the 49th level of impurity. So as it is, it was pretty dangerous. So even to get 1/5 out, or to make sure that we don't sink into the 50th level and that we shouldn't be completely lost, Hashem gave the Shevet of Levi. See, interesting. We're talking about Yosef as an individual, and Levi, we're talking about as Shevet Levi. So it's a little bit different. Hashem gave Shevet Levi the job, the task, to learn Torah and to use that Torah to inspire the people and to tell them that there's a bigger picture here. Hashem is not just making you work hard just for the sake of working hard, but there's a bigger picture, and there's going to be redemption, and to give them the strength, to literally give them the strength to be able to pull through.
See, we see, truth is, it's always like that. We see it here now also. We have our challenges, and some people give up, and some people are listening to the Emunah guy talk, so.
It's true.
And giving us the energy You know, I spoke to someone the other day, because I'm so angry. I go, okay, you have to listen to this and realize it's gonna be a bigger picture. Who am I to tell her that, right? But if I listen to it for a few months already, I could say, just keep on listening. We know this, because I know there's a bigger picture, but I'm being angry. I said, be in pain, don't be angry. You know, like, you try to whatever, but that's the same kind of thing.
Every
But
person
then
has to
it's
come
something
to that.
I feel like
by
I can't
themselves,
deal
yeah.
with the challenge anymore, and they give up, you know.
I agree with you that the question is stronger than the answer. I left my husband, Kara, I left my husband a voice note on the way to the class, and I said, it seems so insensitive. Here you have a tribe of people sitting and learning while their brothers are being slaves. I mean, if I was a slave and you're sitting and learning and you're going to come tell me, oh, have some hope, I'll be like, excuse me, like, why should I even listen to you? Because you don't get it. You come, it's easier for me.
But the Fry and Eretz Yisrael are saying the same thing.
Oh,
the Torah is gonna keep up the world, but we're fighting in the army, like,
Yeah.
yeah. They're not happy with us. Even after October 7th, some people came back and they're lighting candles and becoming from, and they're putting on tefillin and tzitzis, and they realize that it's holding up the world, but a lot of people are
Yeah,
it's taking too long. It's over a year, October 7th. So they're pulling back to their original,
Or they're pulling back to their ideas.
idea. That's what I'm saying.
You know, they might be keeping Shabbos or whatever, but at the end of the day.
So I'm saying it's very hard if you don't, if we don't have the bigger picture, it's very hard to say, oh, you sit and learn in yeshiva. Yeah, it might be very hard. And you have to wake up very, very early in the morning, go to sleep very, very late. But look, we're the ones that are dying on the battlefield. So, and I could make it a question even stronger. It could be that if you were coming from outer space and you were looking at this world, you might say to yourself, it's very nice. No, I'm saying it's very nice that we're all sitting here and learning Torah. That's great, but back when we know that when we look at when we're judging and we're saying, oh, how could they sit and learn Torah when their brothers are suffering so badly? But you know what? In our generation, our brothers are also suffering so badly. Maybe they're not suffering so badly physically, but our brothers that are our Jewish brethren that are not yet religious or that didn't have a Torah education, and we're sitting comfortably learning Torah.
But there's nothing to do. What could I do? Like,
okay, but we could, but they couldn't. So we can't say what can we do, because then the Jewish people that are slaves could also say, how could I listen? How can I take encouragement from you?
The flip side is there's nothing I could do. Let's say there's there's a whole group of people living in Texas. I mean, I live here, like I can't get there, right? So I'm learning, and then you never know who you're going to inspire.
Absolutely. So that's why we can't just learn. Yes.
Actually, I had a conversation. We met this couple. They're dating for like 15 months. He's Persian. He lives in some Long Island. She lives in Los Angeles. Yeah, great now. And we met them on the plane coming. And guess what? We met them on the plane going home. And we had a serious conversation. My husband put them in touch with Chabad, and her in touch with Chabad. And I had a conversation with him. I had a conversation with her. And I wasn't talking. It wasn't, it wasn't even me talking. It was just what I learned. And it just literally Hashem put it was amazing.
Okay, so this is the answer. So you're being part of the solution. You're saying the solution. What I would like to imagine is, yes, there were a group of people that didn't have to work. But you know what they did? They would go out every day. They would see their brothers literally being tortured, and they had a certain quota. Maybe they had 500 bricks that they had to make. I would assume that Shevet Levi helped them. And while they came to help them, they shared a Dvar Torah with them also. And we have to, if we have that picture in our mind, then we will make it our responsibility, and we will take a task very seriously, that if we have an opportunity to speak to or to meet or to influence another Jewish person who is in slavery, because they're in slavery to their animal soul or to the world, and instead of saying, hey, it's not my responsibility, but I'm too shy, right? To say, you know what?
He
So, you know,
says,
if
comes
this-
to sit near me, comes to sit near, and he's like, why is your husband being so nice to us? He couldn't, he was like this, like, why? And my husband usually, he's very nice, but he doesn't take people's numbers. Like, he's like, he'll be nice till he gets over the plane. He's not talking to you when he gets off you. And I was quite surprised that my husband even had his number. But guess what? Even if he didn't have his number, they met us on the way going home. So
Wow.
it's 9 hours, 7 hours going, 9.5 going home. So we were basically, by the time
You
we
were on a
done-
mission. Absolutely. You were on a mission. So I think just, you know, that's just like a side note, yeah. Well, we know that Moshe Rabbeinu did. Moshe Rabbeinu did. How did Moshe Rabbeinu see Dasan and Aviram, right? He went out to see how his brothers were doing.
They did not.
You can just.
They were not in a state of listening. They couldn't hear the words of the that was coming. So the way I think Chelek lady kept the flame alive for when it was time, you know, it would go out with fire. But at the years of slavery, I mean, when Moshe Rabbeinu came, they even couldn't even listen to him because they were still enslaved.
Yeah.
So they did not have the fire from in the burning for the old Yidden. Chelek lady kept it alive for it to be gone for the next generation. But I mean, I'm not saying maybe they did help them in a small scale, but they did not bring, you know, the rest of the Jews were like down in the domes. They're not like, you know, burning fire from around. They're not there. That's what I'm saying. Kept the flame alive for the
Slow and steady.
It was a very, very difficult galus.
You know what I'm saying?
But they were not
officially.
encouraged, no, not at that point. Not when they were enslaved.
Yes, absolutely.
But we cannot just stick alone. We do have responsibility today, you know.
I'm saying like.
That's her greatness. And the greatness is that they listened to her. That's how you want to look at it.
Like, oh, they were just sitting and learning. They couldn't just sitting and learning.
And I think they inspired slowly. Some people, like even in the regular world, some people, I have some friends or family members, they think they're the victim of the century, like nobody had it as bad as them, you know, right? But like, if I could keep her giving her like little bits of encouragement, hopefully she would get out, right? So I think they had an easier job with some people. Some people.
So it had.
Some people were harder to.
Exactly.
It's why when it's like on Amazon, like being that constant surviving if you go through things. And then there's the godless.
Yes.
But I feel like
We're talking
some
about
people
the
get
system
stuck in
generally,
it.
the Jewish system, I mean, you know,
Still have to be
that's why they have a
difficult
problem.
when they are.
That's what society needs.
Absolutely.
For sure, they are.
Like,
Absolutely. That's they had a hard job.
so perspective, and how do you meet them with the godly soul?
Caring for them.
Yeah.
Take care of the physical needs, take care of their animal soul needs.
And therefore, when the Jews went out of Egypt, Shevet Levi also got Rechush Gadol because they were holding up the world, yes, and they had a very hard job. But according to this teaching, that they didn't just sit in their house
And they didn't
and learn Torah. What the Rebbe says that their responsibility wasn't just for themselves, wasn't just to keep the flame of Torah alive. Their responsibility was specifically to give the Jewish people hope and to encourage them. And they did interact. They did interact with their brothers to inspire them and to lift them up and tell them there's a bigger picture. There's something, to show them, to give them meaning, to give meaning to their life.
And a lot of people, I don't necessarily think they went to the streets of Mitzrayim doing it. I think that if anything, people that represent that light other people magnet to them, and they're able to give that hope over to them.
Okay, so I don't know. However they did it again. I was just like, trying to imagine, what really went on there.
Because it's relatable, right? If you go through a problem and you're like, okay, who could I reach out to that would help me and support me with this, right? That's how I am, right? And sometimes we have our own answers, sometimes we.
But there are two types. If you have a product that you want to sell, You made it, you invented something and you have a product that you want to sell. There's two ways of doing it. One way is you have a shop and you open up your door and you say, look, I'm selling this thing. Whoever wants it, come to me and you could buy it. Another way is that you go from store to store and you market your product and you bring it out to the world. You don't just sit and wait for a customer, but you go and you share your product with the world. So we could, I don't know if they had, this is the yeshiva, and if anyone needs inspiration, come here to get a dose of inspiration, or if there are people that went out of their way to look out for their brothers, to give them a shoulder to cry on, to help them out however they could, maybe to bring them extra piece of bread, even
like I see people who are rebels, right? I think they have the hardest job in the world because people come to them and unburden themselves and they hear the most horrible things. How do they sleep at night? I would never be able to do it. It's the hardest job.
Yeah.
To be there.
And to see people suffering and not to be able to alleviate their pain.
Yeah, they said even the Rebbe Kanievsky would take things like she had to
I don't know how they do it.
Sometimes it's harder to watch someone suffer than to suffer yourself. They say that also. But in any case, they were also refined. They weren't removed. The exile also refined them, either because they had to witness what they witnessed, because they helped them physically, spiritually. They gave them, maybe it was just a shred of hope, something to hold on to. And because they learned Torah, they did have a bigger picture. And they said, because they're learning Torah, there has to be a meaning behind this madness. They said, listen, there's gonna be an end to it. It can't just be that there's just suffering for no purpose. Hashem is good. There's gotta be an end to this and a meaning behind it, and it's for a reason. And this is what they said to encourage them and even to give them a shred of hope. To give them a lifeline to hold on to. This was their task. This was their job. And even Pari was the one who said this. Pari said, in every nation, there are people that are the scholars. So the Jewish people also have scholars. So Pari was one that said, these people, they're going to be exempt from work. But it was all Hashem masterminded everything, because Hashem wanted there should be a segment of the Jewish people to be able to encourage the Jews, because he knew that it would be so tough and so dark, and there's such a risk of losing the whole nation. So that's why Hashem had that in place. Sometimes, we say, Kadosh Baruch Hu hikdim refuah lamaka. Hashem gives us a glimmer of light, a little bit of hope, something to hold on to so that we could come out of it. Yeah. It's a very good question, but it does say that the Avos, before the Torah was given, that they learned the whole Torah. So now you can ask me, so
No, it was verbally,
Yeah.
it was not powerful, yeah. Written Torah is only when Shem wrote it. But Yaakov also went on Yeshua Shem, there was always learning. They were learning Torah verbally.
Without books.
Without books, no, it was from Rebbe Katam.
Their brains were much bigger.
Yeah, that's why now they need, because the generation went down.
So now you can ask me another question. If the Torah, and we discussed this in other classes, if the Torah was already known and people already learned it, even if it was just the scholars before the giving of the Torah, so it was a big deal the giving of the Torah. So we said that Matan Torah was that the barrier between heaven and earth was taken away. Only after Matan Torah could you do a mitzvah, could you elevate something physical, and could you bring down holiness into this world. That was the accomplishment of Matan Torah. It wasn't just this actual scroll, or that the actual words on parchment, which it was ink on parchment but it was the concept of now we're able to elevate the world. Okay. Okay, so this so the fact, so let's answer our questions. Why were the shluchim necessary? Why was it necessary to have Ephraim and Menashe take over Levi and Yosef? So the answer is that you need to, they on one hand, they needed to transcend the exile, and therefore they couldn't partake in it. But on the other hand, they did have to have a finger on the coffin. They did have to have participate through someone else. Why? Because they did have to inspire their brothers. So they needed two opposites at the same time. So therefore, they themselves didn't carry the coffin, but they had a representative do it for them because they had to remain, they did transcend the exile. They were above it, but at the same time, they still had to be connected to their brothers, and therefore they had to have a shliach do it for them. The next question was, how was Levi exempt from the slavery? So the answer is that the exemption was a part of the enslavement. It was part of the enslavement. That was their part. The exemption itself was, it's not that they were exempted from the slavery, but the exemption was part of the slavery to help those that were enslaved so that they should actually be able to come out at the end. And how did they get the gain if they didn't partake in the slavery? The partnership enabled the Jews to endure the enslavement, and therefore they did come out with a rechush gadol, because there was a partnership here. Now, when it comes to inspiring the Jews, there are two ways to do it. There's a Menashe way, and there's a Ephraim way. And we're going to learn this from their names. What does Menashe mean, and what does Ephraim mean? Okay. So what is Menashe? Menashe, he was named Menashe because Yosef, when he was born, Yosef said, Hashem is giving me so much good here in Egypt that all this goodness is making me forget my connection to my father's house. And therefore, I don't want to forget it. I'm going to name my son Menashe. Imagine naming your child forget or forgetfulness. Right? He named his child forget because he didn't want to forget his father's house. And Yosef was very, very much connected to his father Yaakov, and he was on the same level as his father Yaakov.
So he was also on the cover?
Yes, we learned this last week's teaching, that there's a markava, and then there's a lower markava. Yosef and Yaakov is the Atzilus, Yaakov is the Merkava, and the Shvatim, they were the lower Merkava. But amongst the Shvatim, Yosef was different from the brothers, and therefore Yosef didn't get along with his brothers. He was unique and he was different because he was a copy of his father. He was a copy of his father, and it said that when he was challenged with the story of Potiphar, he remembered his father's face, the image of his father, and that helped him restrain himself. So he was very, very much connected and on the level of his father. And just like his father was above exile, he was also above exile like a king. And that is one method. And Menashe represents the connection to his father, to Yaakov Avinu. That represents, how do we deal with exile? How do we deal with the situation of exile? How do we deal with the situation of slavery? There's two modes, there's two ways. Number one is to pick yourself up, raise yourself up like a king, pick yourself up above the exile, above the darkness, and connect to your father, connect to your father in heaven, connect to Yaakov, to remember who you are. Remember who you are. Remember where you come from, to lift yourself up and to connect to your father. When things are crazy, to say, you know what? I'm going to lift myself up, get a bird's eye view, and realize that yes, pick yourself up from the dumps and realize that there's something beneath the surface over here. Don't just judge by what you see. Pick yourself up. There's got to be a bigger picture. There's got to be a message here. From the smallest things. So today I was so proud of myself. I got my baby ready for for daycare. He's strapped in the car, and it's the car of the person who carpools, and took the big van and always leaves me her car, and it's never an issue, and I always drive with her car to come here and to bring my baby to the babysitter, and the keys weren't in the car. So I was so frustrated. And then I remember that I have a neighbor that also goes to the same school, and I called them up, and they gave me a ride. And then we're driving on New Hampshire Avenue, and I see a ton of cars backed up. Who knows? Maybe there was an accident. Maybe if I would have been driving that car 5 minutes earlier, who knows what I would have been in the middle of. But so what I'm saying is, you're like frustrated, but then you could say, you know what? No, I'm not gonna get frustrated. Lift yourself up. Thank God I wasn't driving someone else's car in the snow, and who knows? God forbid, what could have happened. So to lift yourself up and to reframe the situation, that's one way, one mode of dealing with galus, to be like Yosef, and to connect to your father, raise yourself up, be a king. That's one mode of operating galus. And then there is the concept of Ephraim. What is Ephraim? Why did he name his son Ephraim? That Hashem multiplied me, made me fruitful, made me multiply in this galus. So what does Ephraim mean? Ephraim is that when you look at galus and you say, not only am I going to survive, but I'm going to thrive. To be able to be able to transform the exile, to be able to find the meaning, find the light, find the purpose, and realize that there's something here, multiplying fruitful. There's a massive gain over here, and that's what Ephraim represents. And since Torah, what is the role of Torah? Torah is a tremendous light, and the goal of Torah is to transform, is to change us. And we're going to speak about how that is in a second. So therefore, Ephraim is the one that represents Levi, because Levi was the one who was given the job to teach Torah, which transforms the world and transforms us and gives us hope and encouragement and gives us the bigger picture, and transforms darkness into light. And therefore, Ephraim, who represents the transformation, that not only are you attached, you're trying to, in the darkness, attaching yourself to your Father in heaven, but to be able to find the light, to find the good, to find the meaning, to find the value in the exile, and to see the refinement, and to see the change, and to see the transformation. That is why Ephraim specifically is the one that holds the coffin instead of Levi. So I just want to, yesterday, I just wanted to share this little puzzle over here. So I went to Michael's on Hanukkah, and I bought crafts for the kids, and then I bought this puzzle. It's a wooden puzzle, and you could color it, and then you take it apart and you put it together. You can make your own puzzle. So I had two of them. So one son, the boys got the puzzles. They were doing crafts yesterday. So one son made a beautiful picture, on his puzzle, and then the other one, he's 6 years old, so he sees pieces. So he took a red marker and he colored the first piece all red. And then so I would have been quiet, let him however he wants to decorate his thing. But then another child had to say, well, what are you doing? If you just colored, each piece, how is that going to be a puzzle? I'm like, you have to make a picture. And he was like, oh, he realized that it's a problem here. So, and I'm trying to think to myself, how am I going to help him transform this mistake, right? What am I supposed to do? There's a puzzle here, and one corner is colored in red. What picture can we make out of it? I said, maybe a watermelon, but it didn't go over very well. Not when it... So they said to him, make this is a half-hour discussion. Right? So what are we going to do to help this kid? And I'm like, I see the tears coming, and I'm like, oh my God. And anyway, so I want to show you the transformation. The transformation is we took the red and we made a balloon out of it. And this is what came out at the end.
That is really not,
So-
not a 6-year-old. 6-year-old did not do that.
No, so my daughter helped him out. But it was my idea. Make it into a balloon. What else was I gonna do? But I'm saying, so sometimes a mistake, I'll just put it over here. Sometimes a mistake could be transformed into something good. We would have never thought of this idea. Well, the other kid, he drew trees and flowers. And this came out so cute, and it was because of a mistake. So that's just transformation.
Was he happy though?
Yes, Baruch Hashem.
Sometimes they're not happy. On top of that.
Yeah.
Made the life horrible.
Yeah, so that's our translation. But I do want to take a couple of minutes and discuss how does Torah really transform? The power of Torah.
We are coming here for a few years and we see it. We definitely see it.
I heard, Tristan, what's the first name? How much is it? We met before yesterday, and she was explaining what it is to live like in the Ula Malchus mindset. And one
Wow.
thing that she said, which I thought was very helpful and relates to it, is a lot of times in life, you think you have a decision to make, like someone asked her to come and teach her child, I think whatever it is, Torah. So she has a very busy schedule, and she said, either she could do it and she was uncomfortable because her schedule don't really fit it and everything, or not do it. And she's like, those are the two choices, that technically she could do it or not do it. And then she was uncomfortable doing it and not uncomfortable saying no. Which the rule is, there is a third option. And when you elevate yourself and you think what the other opportunity is to make her happy and to actually do it, she advised them to do something online, whatever, and she'll review it within every 6 weeks. So a Torah Geula mindset is sort of what you're saying, transforming the situation that we sometimes think is either this or that, and those are the two choices, and that's it, I'm stuck, or there is another option that you have to use your Torah, your knowledge, whatever, to come to a conclusion of what the right option is, and there is another option that is making everyone in the situation work for everyone, and come to an answer that works, and so you like think that way, that mindset, there is an option, there is a solution, but maybe something you have to think of or be a little creative with.
So
That's what he was like.
I heard recently that there's only conflict on the strategy, not like on the need or like how to, like everyone understands universal needs. Let's say someone has a need for a need to be heard, right? And they want to be heard by you. Let's say you can't meet that. It's because they're getting stuck on the strategy of how to be heard. But if you come up with different, basically don't get stuck on the strategy,
We
but
get very stuck on the black, right.
the way
Right,
to meet it, the way to get to
And I
it.
think living with Torah helps you, like what you
There's
understand,
another way.
is that
Yeah.
there's something that you come up with, even though it's a mistake, it's not a mistake, there's another solution that
Yeah.
you have to just use your.
Yes, I was thinking like just take that
mindset.
background and make something else in that.
It's your own,
like,
that's right. So you have
so
to
many
think,
things,
yeah.
yeah.
We have to dig with the answers
You
within
just
us.
we have
to
it, the
dig
more
in.
you tell, you get that,
Right.
you
So
feed
the
the part of you
blockages-
that helps you
yeah.
get in touch with that answer, and it's not so complicated. You know,
Like I
it's
felt like
there,
this
you have to
person
learn.
who was angry, it gives you resilience.
Yeah.
She was
Yeah.
sad,
Yeah.
angry, you know what I mean? She was sad, angry.
Right.
So then I had heard this in one clip. And then I said, you know what, maybe you better feel the pain. Not really angry at Jen. You're pain that it's our shidduchim
Right.
and it's having a hard time. So you're not really angry. And
Anger is a
pain-
result of pain, and sometimes we don't want to pain, we react with anger.
So
It's like
pain,
you're
I
saying.
think would be,
Same
and I
thing.
said, pain, I think would be easier to get rid of. You know what I mean? Like.
When you let
Put a
something
Band-Aid,
get the only way you
whatever, you
can.
could feel whatever it is, but
Right.
anger is such a powerful trait. And it's
It
never a
gets
good
stuck.
trait, like it
It
always
gets
has.
stuck inside of you.
Yeah.
Right, and the person wasn't an angry person, you know what I mean? So she used it in such a strong way, so then I just said, so that's it, it's just a
Different way.
negotiation of how to
Mhm.
decide what else to do. In order
And I love
to-
that you said resilience, because I feel like when you think there's only one way, and when you can't meet that
You get
way,
stuck.
then you feel
Yeah.
like, you feel so helpless.
Yeah.
But when We're able to find another way, it's actually so empowering, like.
But to find that other way is through becoming, learning to learn,
Yeah.
and that's what lights up
That gives us-
that Likkutei part, it's like the deepest part inside of you that will come up with the answer, that's a godly answer.
Because we're finite human beings. This is straight from Tanya class on Thursday. What is Torah? What is Torah? So if I want to know you, how can if I want to connect with you, what is the strongest level of connection that you could have with another person? Imagine I'm a CEO of a company and I want to hire someone to work for me. And I'm sitting in my big office with glass windows, and I could see the person who wants to come for an interview. I see him coming out of his car. I already judge him, her, how they're walking out of their car, if they're walking with confidence. And then they could come to my office, they could sit down in front of me, and I could talk to them. And I'm learning more and more about the person. The strongest relationship you could have with another person, the strongest connection, is a intellectual connection when I am able to share my mind and you are able to share your mind with me. That's how I really know a person. Okay, I know you're going to say intimacy, but even intimacy, what do we say? What's intimacy? Intimacy. Because intimacy, if it's not done the right way, yes, it's intimate connection, but if there's no, if it's just a physical act, then it's not going to be meaningful. Why intellectually? So it's very, very interesting. It's very, very interesting. So I'm going to give this example that Rabbi Shishler gave in the Tanya class, and he said, when you have couples when they're dating, or they're engaged, or they're for first Shana Rishona, right? They have wonderful experiences. They went on a honeymoon or wherever. They just have each other, and they have very wonderful experiences. But what happens 20 years into marriage, or more than that, or whatever it is, and they're doing everything right. They're following all the podcasts and everything else. They're doing everything right, but yet there's something missing. What's missing? What's the problem? What's wrong? What happens is that the man, he's in the world of business, and he has his investments and everything else. And he comes home from work, and his wife says, "So tell me, honey, how's it going in business? What are you investing in?" He says, "Honey, don't worry about it. It's all under control. I have it taken care of. It's fine. It's fine. I have it all under control." Then she says to the husband, "Listen, one of our children, I think they need therapy. So, I just need the money for it," or whatever it is. So the husband says, "Tell me, what's the problem? Let's discuss it. What's wrong? How do you know?" I said, "It's all under control. I have it all. I know." Yeah. So what happened? Each one locks the other one out. Each one is locking the other one out of their mind. And each one is living, they're doing everything right. This one's taking out the garbage, and this one's making supper. Everything's, but there's no, if I'm able to share my mind, what's important to me, who I am, what I learned, or where I went, or that then you have a very, very strong connection. And then at that point, when we're married for so many years later, then I don't need the experience to give me access, because I already have the access. But the problem is, when I shut down and I don't give you access into my life, into my brain, into my whatever, then the relationship could go sour. So what does Hashem do when Hashem gives us a Torah? What is the Torah? The Torah is Hashem's chachma. It's His wisdom. He's not just giving you a mitzvah is wonderful. Mitzvah is an opportunity to connect. If you get me orange juice, you did something for me. Okay, we have a connection. That's a mitzvah. What's Torah? Torah is Hashem's giving you His wisdom. He's giving you His mind. He's giving you the way He thinks. That's the greatest learn a person could have with Hashem. And yes, when you learn Torah, and yes, Torah sharpens our brain, and we learn things and see things from Hashem's perspective, which is an infinite perspective, then yes, there's going to be more than two solutions to the problem. You're going to have a whole bigger, you're going to have such a much bigger view, and a whole different view, and a whole different outlook, and a whole different perspective when you see things from God's from God's lens, from God's perspective. So the Torah is such an incredible gift. And therefore, yeah, we could say, I see, I'm processing this class as we're learning it. And you could say, hey, it's not fear. It's not fear. This Sheva Levi could just sit and learn Torah while their brothers are being beaten to death. I mean, it doesn't seem any fear. But Hashem knows that the only way they're going to get out of this hell, right? The only is if they get a little bit of Torah. Because what is Torah? Torah is the best medicine, is the best antidote to all the suffering and all the pain. Because what is it? It's Hashem sharing his innermost self with us, and which is his infinity. And when we're able to grasp onto Torah, then no matter as much as we're beaten, we'll never die. We'll never die because we're holding on to infinity. We're holding on to truth. We're holding on to Hashem. We're a part of Hashem, and we're one with Hashem. So they can't destroy us, because just like they can't destroy Hashem, they can't destroy us. And just to come to, I was on, I don't know what form of social media yesterday, and I saw a little clip. This woman is sharing. I forget the names of. I think that there's a hostage that's in Gaza right now, and just turned 21. And his mother, her mother. I don't know if it's I can't remember if it's a boy or a girl. That's their child. Anyway, the mother gets a phone call from Hamas, and they said, "Do you want to see your child again?" And of course, she says yes. So the Hamas guy says, "Well, in that case, why are you not by the Havganot? Why are you not at all the protests? How come when I watch TV, I don't see you going against the government and screaming and shouting and protesting that your child should come home? So if you want your child, you better be. I better see you on TV when by the protests." So she says, "Tell me, how's my child doing?" So he says, the child is very, very weak, very, very weak, and in very, very bad state. So you better listen to what I'm telling you, because otherwise, forget it. So with strength.
It's amazing though that they could like
psychological warfare.
Yeah, know how they know that this Mrs. So and so is not at the crazy freaky.
Okay, so then she said.
So she says, I don't know with I could only be with the strength of Torah. She says to the Hamas guy, she says, "My child is not in your hands. My child is in God's hands. And you know what? You're also in God's hands. And in 1 minute, you could be dead. You could have your end. In the blink of an eye, you could have your end." And he said, "You're right, Giveret," and he hung up the phone. So where does that come from? It seems so bleak. It seems impossible. But when we hold on to Torah, when we hold on to Torah, this is our strength. This is our strength when everything seems so black and so dark. And also last class, I'm still processing last class also. We asked what is the connection between Malchus and Emunah? And I asked this question to Rabbi Shishler, because I didn't get it. And basically he answered the question. I could send the voice note, but basically all of a sudden it hit me. I had an aha moment. Torah. And I'll get another aha moment this second. What is Torah? We said this. Torah is compared to water. What is water? Water comes from the highest place and it goes to the lowest place. If you're doing construction, you want to know if your floor is straight, pour a glass of water on the floor and see, is the water staying in one spot or is it inching to one of the corners? Water is always looking to go down to the lowest place, which is Torah. Because the greatness of Hashem, you could see the greatness of Hashem is not that he's stuck in heaven, but rather it could come down to us and to be so close to us. That is the greatness of Torah, that it could come so low. And specifically, and we said and the same thing is with Malchus. Malchus is the lowest one. Malchus goes lowest. And Malchus represents the feminine energy. Malchus represents Emunah, specifically in the lowest of the low, when it's dark and you can't understand and it's not fear. Specifically in the lowest level, that is where the Emunah is shining. That's where you have an opportunity to reveal the essence and to reveal the Emunah. The Emunah is not, yes, it's synonymous with Malchus. Why? Because Malchus is the lowest level. Specifically in the darkest time, that's when the light is so bright. That's when we have opportunity to reveal the essence, to reveal the Emunah of every single Jew. So everything is all connected, everything is all tied together. And it's and in the beginning of the class, I came here and I said, look, it's not fear. This was my question in the car. I'm voicing under my husband. It's not fear that one group should just be able to sit and learn Torah. That's not fear. Well, everyone else has to do backbreaking labor. But now when you finish the class, you realize that what is Torah? What is Torah? Torah is what's going to save us. What's going to save us? There had to be the gatekeepers of Torah. There had to be someone appointed with a task, of giving us the shred of hope, the shred of light, to hold on to the light for the Yidden. And when they were suffering and being beaten and working so hard, I don't think they were jealous of their brothers who were learning. They were just so grateful for a little bit of water, for a little bit of light. What is it?
The same thing. They really, really believed that Torah was pushing them to the decline. Now, again, the non-formed person who wanted to start up the yeshiva again was doing it, but most of the year they really, really believed. Like all those boys that came to do the tzitzis and stuff like that. But the actual Torah learning people, they felt were very strong and they needed it.
Because we have the Yetzer Hara is very big, but for those that are learning Torah, they have to work as hard, or not as, if not harder than their brothers who are giving. They have to have the same Mesiras Nefesh to learn as their brothers have the same Mesiras Nefesh to give up their life. That we can't get lax in the yeshivas either. We can't get lax in our learning either. We have to, if we have to learn like we learned right after October 7th, if we learn with the same strength, then hopefully they will recognize how valuable our learning is. But ultimately, we should merit Mashiach now from all the Torah that we're learning and all the light that we're bringing into the world. And the Torah should give us the strength. We should take the strength from Torah, because that is how we're going to get carried out of the galus. So pun intended. The class started out with the brothers, the Shvatim, carrying out their father from Mitzrayim to bring them to his resting place in Eretz Yisrael. And what's going to carry us out of this galus? What's going to carry us out of this galus? Two things. Number one, be a king. Raise yourself up. Don't get stuck in what you see, but look deeper. There's a bigger picture. Reframe the situation. Lift yourself up like a king. Don't be enslaved to Parai. Say, no, I'm the boss. I'm the leader. I'm the ruler. Be a ruler like Yosef. And number two, be like Yaakov. I'm sorry, be like Levi. Be like Levi. And because what's going to get us out? What's going to get us out? It's the Torah learning. Those are the two keys. The two keys to stay strong and to persevere in galus is one, pick yourself up, be a king, and learn Torah.
Wonderful.
Okay.
This was an amazing class.
Thank you, Rebbe.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.